Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking all about burnout and how to manage it, especially for women.
Okay.
Our guide for this journey is a book called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle.
Oh, yeah.
It's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski.
I've heard of this one.
We're going to unpack the most important takeaways and give you some really solid strategies
Cool.
to not just survive burnout, but thrive.
Love it.
So burnout is more than just a feeling. It's like an actual physical thing that's happening.
Right.
The Nagoskis really break it down in a way that helps you understand what's happening in your body.
Totally. Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Stress. We all experience it.
Yeah, for sure.
What's actually going on inside of us when we feel stressed?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the book dives into this thing called the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
That feeling when you encounter something scary and your heart starts racing.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Like what happens inside?
It's like our body's ancient alarm system going off, flooding us with adrenaline and cortisol to prep us to either fight the danger or run away.
Okay.
Imagine like our ancestors encountering a wild animal.
Right.
That's exactly the response that helped them survive.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
We're not really running from wild animals anymore in our modern world.
True. That's a good point.
But we are dealing with deadlines and family obligations and just the never-ending demands of modern life.
It never ends.
So it's like our bodies are still reacting like there's a lion around every corner.
Right. Like we haven't adapted.
And that's where the problem starts.
Totally, I see that.
So we rarely get to complete the stress cycle.
Huh. Interesting.
So think about it. If you were running from that lion
Yeah.
and you managed to escape,
Yeah.
your body would calm down,
Yeah. You'd be safe?
you'd catch your breath, your heart rate would slow down,
Uh-huh.
and all those stress hormones would subside.
Right.
But in our daily lives,
Yeah.
we get stuck in this constant state of low-grade stress.
Oh, I feel that.
And those hormones just keep building up.
Makes sense.
So it's like our internal alarm system is stuck on N,
Uh-huh.
even though there's no real danger present.
Right.
So this is what the Nagoskis call the incomplete stress cycle.
Okay.
And it's a huge contributor to burnout.
Got it.
But the good news is
Okay.
they offer some practical strategies to help us complete the cycle and reset that alarm system.
Awesome. I like practical.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest ones is physical activity.
Oh,
It
right.
doesn't have to be an intense workout.
Yeah.
It could even just be like a quick walk or a dance break or even some stretching.
I could do that.
It's almost like tricking your body into thinking you outran that lion.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you actually survived.
Right.
Yeah.
Other things that can help are affection,
Okay.
like hugging a loved one or cuddling with a pet or laughing or expressing yourself creatively. Like all these things signal to your body that you're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps bring those stress hormones back down to normal.
So it's like giving yourself permission to enjoy those things.
Yeah.
Not just as rewards, but as essential parts of like managing your well-being.
Totally.
I love that.
What are some things you do to complete your stress cycle?
For me, taking a few minutes to just breathe deeply
Oh,
or spending some time in nature really helps.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on to another key concept
Okay.
from the book. It's called the stress monitor.
The stress monitor.
So this is where the Nagoskis get into how our brains are wired to track our efforts and progress.
Okay. Interesting.
It's like having this internal GPS system
Uh-huh.
that's guiding you towards a destination.
That
And as long as you're making progress,
Yeah.
the GPS is happy.
Right.
But if you hit a roadblock or get stuck in traffic,
Oh, yeah.
it starts recalculating.
Uh-huh.
And that can get frustrating.
So frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially when it feels like you're putting in a ton of effort
Yeah.
and getting nowhere.
Totally.
So just like that frustrated GPS,
Okay.
when our stress monitor perceives a lack of progress,
Yeah.
especially in situations that we feel like we can't control, it triggers feelings of helplessness and can lead to burnout.
Oh, no.
But don't worry,
Okay.
because the Nagoskis have some great strategies for managing our stress monitor.
Tell me more about those.
Right.
Yeah. What can we do to avoid feeling like that frustrated GPS?
Okay, so they outline 3 main approaches. The first one is called planful problem solving.
Planful problem solving.
Okay, it's basically about tackling those controllable stressors head on.
Okay.
So if you know traffic is going to be bad on your way to work,
Right.
you might plan an alternate route or adjust your departure time.
Makes sense.
So it's all about being proactive
And
and finding ways to minimize foreseeable obstacles.
I like that I can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about those situations that are truly out of our control?
Like what?
Like unexpected delays or setbacks that throw off our plans?
Yeah. Right. Those are the worst.
That's where the second strategy comes in.
Okay. What is it?
It's called positive reappraisal.
Positive reappraisal.
It's all about shifting our perspective.
Okay.
And looking for the silver lining, even in those challenging situations.
I like that.
So instead of getting annoyed by that traffic jam,
Yeah.
you could use that time to listen to a podcast.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or have a meaningful conversation with someone.
I like that.
It's about reframing those uncontrollable stressors as opportunities for growth or learning.
I can see that.
The Nagoskis even point to research showing how struggling with a task can actually lead to a deeper understanding.
Interesting.
And more creative solutions in the long run.
Huh.
Sometimes those uncomfortable experiences can be the most valuable ones for learning and growth.
You learn the most from those.
Okay, so we've covered planful problem solving and positive reappraisal. But what about those times when you've done everything right, but you're still feeling frustrated by a lack of progress?
It happens.
That's where this third strategy comes in.
Okay.
Redefining winning and failing.
Redefining winning and failing.
It's about recognizing that sometimes success might look different than we initially imagined.
Right.
And adjusting our expectations accordingly.
I like that.
So instead of focusing on like the end goal and getting overwhelmed by everything it takes to get there, you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay. So smaller steps.
The book shares an example of this conductor who's feeling overwhelmed by the pressure of recording an entire album.
Oh, wow.
And she realized that by just focusing on recording one great vocal track at a time, she could find more joy in the process.
Oh, that's nice.
And ultimately achieve a better final product.
I like that.
Sometimes the most important thing is to just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Even if it's in smaller steps than you initially planned.
That's a great way to put it.
Sometimes winning means celebrating those small victories along the way.
Totally.
And embracing the messy, imperfect reality of the journey.
Love that.
Okay, so let's quickly recap what we've learned so far.
Okay.
We explored the stress response. The importance of completing the stress cycle.
Right.
And how to manage our internal stress monitor.
Yeah.
By using those three powerful strategies.
Yes.
Planful problem solving, positive reappraisal, and redefining winning and failing.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But even small changes in how we perceive and manage stress can make a significant difference in our overall well-being.
So true. We'll be back soon to explore the concept of finding meaning and purpose as a powerful tool for managing burnout. Stay tuned.
I will.
Welcome back. We just finished talking about all the different ways we can manage that stress in our lives. But now let's kind of shift gears and talk about this thing the Nagoskis call our something larger.
Our something larger.
It's basically all about finding meaning and purpose in our lives.
That's really interesting.
It's like having this anchor that keeps you grounded when everything else is kind of chaotic.
I like that.
And what I love is that this something larger can be so many different things for different people.
Totally.
It could be your family or your community or your faith or a creative passion.
Right.
Or even like a commitment to a cause that you believe in.
It's really personal.
Yeah. And the Nagoskis make this point that meaning isn't something we just stumble upon.
Okay.
It's something that we create by engaging with our something larger.
I see.
It's about making choices that align with our values.
Right.
And investing our time and energy in the things that light us up.
Love that.
He even used this analogy of like classic Disney heroines.
Oh, fuck.
You know, those I Want songs.
Yeah.
You know, Moana felt drawn to the ocean. Belle craved adventure. Piana dreamed of opening her own restaurant.
They all had their thing.
It's like all of those were about pursuing something that gave their life meaning and purpose.
Right. It gave them direction.
So what's your I Want song?
Ooh, that's a good question.
What makes you feel like you're living a life that truly matters?
What am I passionate about?
What sets your soul on fire?
I love that.
Find ways to weave more of that into your daily life.
So it could be something big like working to protect the environment.
Yeah.
Or fighting for social justice, or even something closer to home.
Right.
Like nurturing relationships.
Totally.
Or expressing yourself through art or music.
The key is just to find it.
Yeah, and make time for it.
Okay. So we've talked about managing our individual stress and tapping into those sources of meaning and purpose.
Right.
But now let's get real for a minute.
Okay.
And talk about something that can make burnout even more challenging.
Okay.
Especially for women. The Nagoskis call it the rigged game. The rigged game.
This is where they kind of dive into the systemic and invisible forces that can create chronic stress for women.
Like what kinds of things?
We're talking about things like societal expectations, gender roles, and yes, even the dreaded P word patriarchy.
Okay.
I know it's like an uncomfortable topic.
It can be.
But I think it's so important to talk about.
Right.
Because it helps us understand the context in which we're experiencing burnout.
Totally. It's not about blaming anyone or getting stuck in a victim mentality.
It's not about that.
It's about recognizing that the playing field isn't always level.
Yes.
And that women often face unique challenges that contribute to burnout.
The book uses this helpful analogy of headwinds and tailwinds.
Headwinds and tailwinds. Interesting.
So imagine riding a bicycle on a road.
Okay.
That seems flat.
Yeah.
But there's this slight incline that's creating a headwind.
Okay.
So you're pedaling hard.
But it's making it harder to move forward.
Right.
But someone going in the opposite direction is experiencing that same incline as a tailwind.
Oh, wow.
Making their ride much easier.
Yeah.
So this is often how it is for women.
Okay.
We're constantly facing these subtle headwinds that make everything just a little bit harder.
I can see that.
And it's frustrating
Totally.
because we don't even realize they're there.
Yeah.
We just think we're not trying hard enough.
Right. Or we're failing.
Right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, there are people who are benefiting from those tailwinds without even realizing it.
Wow.
It's not about pointing fingers.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging the reality.
Yeah.
And understanding how these systemic factors impact our experiences.
I get it.
So how does this rigged game actually play out in real life?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Well, the book dives into some pretty powerful examples.
Okay.
So they talk about the pressure women face to conform to these unrealistic beauty standards.
So
constantly being bombarded by messages from the bikini industrial complex.
It's true.
Which is profiting off our insecurities.
Oh, great.
They also point out that women are still disproportionately responsible for caregiving and household tasks.
Yeah.
Even when they also work full-time.
It's a lot.
It's not just the external pressures either.
What else is there?
It's also the internalized messages.
Okay.
About what it means to be a good woman.
Right.
We're often taught to be nice and accommodating.
Right.
And to put other people's needs before our own.
Makes sense.
The Nagoskis call this human giver syndrome.
Human giver syndrome. Wow.
And while there's nothing wrong with being caring and compassionate, it becomes a problem when we're constantly giving without taking care of our own needs.
Totally. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
That's where burnout can set in.
Yeah. But here's the good news.
Okay.
The Nagoskis offer these strategies.
Yes.
For navigating this rigged game and building resilience.
Okay.
So what can we do to unlearn these unhelpful patterns and start playing the game on our own terms?
I want to know.
Okay, so the first step is recognizing and naming these stressors.
Okay.
Becoming aware of those headwinds.
Right.
And how they're impacting us and completing the stress cycle.
Oh, right.
To deal with the emotional toll they take.
Okay.
Once you see those headwinds for what they are, you can start to figure out how to navigate them.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And that leads us to another important concept.
Okay.
Unlearning helplessness.
Unlearning helplessness. What's that?
They describe this fascinating experiment with rats.
Rats.
Where one group could escape electric shocks.
Okay.
While the other couldn't.
Oh, no.
So the rats who could escape learned that they had control.
Right.
But the helpless rats, even when later given a chance to escape, just gave up.
Oh, wow.
They had learned to be helpless.
So are they saying we can retrain our brains?
Yes. To recognize that we have agency.
Yes.
And that we can make choices.
Yes.
Even in a system that feels rigged against us.
Yes. I love that.
We can unlearn those patterns of helplessness. And start to reclaim our power.
How do we actually do that?
So it starts with taking action.
Okay.
Even small actions.
Like what?
that remind us of our strength and agency.
Okay.
Maybe it's setting a boundary.
Okay.
Or speaking up for yourself.
Right.
Or pursuing a passion that brings you joy.
Oh, I like that.
It's about taking those small steps to build our confidence.
Yeah.
And show ourselves that we're capable of more than we might believe.
Totally.
It's also about practicing self-compassion.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout the process.
Okay.
We're all going to stumble and make mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Right.
The key is to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding.
They're all learning.
Self-compassion can be so hard sometimes.
It really can.
Especially when you're used to being self-critical.
It's true.
It's like we're programmed to focus on our flaws instead of acknowledging our strengths and accomplishments.
Yeah, we need to reprogram.
It's a common struggle, but it's something we can learn to do.
Okay, good.
The Nagoskis recommend practicing mindfulness, challenging that negative self-talk, and focusing on our strengths and achievements.
Those are all great.
It's about recognizing that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and our worth isn't determined by our flaws or failures.
I love that.
I think striving for perfection is a trap that so many of us fall into.
It is.
It just leads to more stress and burnout.
And disappointment.
But when we embrace our imperfections and focus on progress over perfection, we open ourselves up to joy and fulfillment.
Totally.
Okay, so now let's move on to another vital aspect of managing burnout.
Okay.
The power of rest.
Rest. Yes, please.
I think we could all agree that we could probably use a little more rest in our lives.
Oh, for sure.
In our culture, rest is often seen as something you earn after you've been productive enough.
Right.
Or taking care of everyone else.
Like it's a reward.
Yes.
Not a necessity.
Right. But the Nagoskis challenge that.
Okay. Yeah.
And they argue that rest is just as essential as food and water.
I like them.
They're reframing rest as a necessity.
Yes.
Why is it so important?
Okay, so they talk about how chronic sleep deprivation can really mess up our physical and mental health.
Right. It's not just about feeling tired.
It's way more than that.
It can impair your cognitive function,
weaken
your immune system, and even increase our risk for serious diseases.
Wow.
And yet so many of us are constantly running on fumes.
It's true.
Sacrificing sleep to meet all the demands.
Right. You got to get it all done.
Of work and family.
And life.
And our to-do lists.
Oh, never end.
They also address this thing called the human giver syndrome.
Okay.
As a barrier to rest.
Human giver syndrome.
It's that feeling that we should always be doing something for others.
Yeah.
And that taking time for ourselves is selfish.
Right.
They want us to flip that script.
Okay.
And view rest as an act of resistance.
I love that.
To reclaim our energy and well-being so we can show up more fully for the things that matter.
So fill your cup first so that you have something to give to others.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And they also emphasize that rest isn't just about sleep.
Okay.
It's about incorporating different forms of rest into our lives.
Like what?
Like active rest.
Active rest.
Like taking a walk.
Okay.
Or switching to a task. That uses a different part of your brain.
Interesting.
It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And giving yourself permission to step away.
Right.
And recharge.
Okay.
Whether it's for 5 minutes or a whole afternoon.
That's a good point.
They even highlight the importance of giving our minds a break. By allowing them to wander. They call this default mode.
Default mode.
It's actually incredibly beneficial.
For what?
For creativity.
Okay.
Problem solving. And processing emotions.
So when I'm daydreaming or staring out the window,
Yeah.
I'm actually doing something good.
You are.
I love that.
It's like giving your brain a chance to defrag and come up with new insights and solutions.
So how can we incorporate more rest into our busy lives?
So the Nagoskis suggest setting realistic expectations
Okay.
for our time and energy. You know, we're not superheroes.
Right.
We can't do everything at once.
True.
It's also crucial to establish those boundaries
Yes.
around work and technology,
Right.
especially in today's hyper-connected world.
Yeah, I'm always on my phone.
Me too.
But creating those boundaries, like setting specific times to unplug and unwind, can make a huge difference.
Totally.
They also recommend creating rituals to help you wind down before bed.
Like what?
Like taking a warm bath, reading a book, or listening to calming music.
I love those.
It's about finding those little things that help signal to your body and mind that it's time to relax and recharge.
Most importantly, it's about treating rest
Yeah.
as a non-negotiable part of your schedule.
Totally.
Just like any other important appointment.
Okay, I can do that.
We've covered so much in this deep dive already.
I have.
We've talked about navigating that rigged game,
Yeah.
the power of rest,
Uh-huh.
and how to unlearn helplessness.
That's a lot.
We're almost there.
Okay.
Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll delve into this concept of growing mighty.
Growing mighty. I can't wait.
Welcome back. We've talked about managing stress, finding meaning, and navigating that rigged game.
Right.
But now, let's talk about what it means to grow mighty. This is how the Nagoskis describe building inner strength and resilience.
I like that.
They introduce this really interesting concept.
Okay.
It's called the Mad Woman in the Attic.
The Mad Woman in the Attic. That sounds kind of scary.
It does sound a little ominous.
Yeah.
But it's not some external force.
Okay.
It's actually a metaphor
For what?
for those critical voices and negative thoughts that can take root in our minds.
Ah, those.
It's the part of us that tells us we're not good enough.
Yeah.
Or that we should be doing more.
Right. Or that we're failing.
Yeah. I think we all have a version of that mad woman living in our heads.
Totally. I know I do.
So what do we do with her?
Yeah. How do we deal with her?
How do we deal with those negative thoughts and feelings that can hold us back?
Right. Because I try to ignore them.
Well, the Nagoskis actually suggest
Okay.
that instead of trying to silence her or ignore her, we should actually acknowledge her presence.
Acknowledge her.
We need to turn towards those difficult thoughts and feelings
Oh, wow.
with curiosity and compassion.
So not push them away.
No. It's more about understanding where those thoughts are coming from
Oh, okay. I see that.
rather than trying to make them go away.
So it's like having a conversation with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Instead of letting her run the show,
Okay. That's a good distinction.
they suggest that instead of trying to argue with her,
Yeah.
we try to understand the root of those critical thoughts.
Okay.
A lot of times they stem from past experiences
Right.
or from messages we've internalized about what it means to be good or successful, or even just from a fear of failure or rejection.
That makes sense.
So how do we start to challenge those negative thought patterns?
Yeah. And reframe them in a more positive light.
This is where self-compassion comes in.
Self-compassion.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend who is struggling.
I like that.
But self-compassion can be so hard,
It can.
especially when you're so used to being self-critical.
It's true.
It's like we're programmed to focus on our flaws
Yeah.
instead of acknowledging our strengths.
Right. We need to change that programming.
It's a common struggle,
Yeah.
but it's something we can learn to do with practice.
Good.
The Nagoskis recommend a few things,
Okay.
like practicing mindfulness,
All right.
challenging that negative self-talk,
Uh-huh.
and focusing on our strengths and achievements.
I can try that.
It's about recognizing that we're all human.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes.
Right.
And that our worth isn't determined by our flaws or failures.
We're all worthy.
And I think striving for perfection is a trap
It is.
that so many of us fall into.
Totally.
And it just leads to more stress and burnout.
And disappointment.
When we embrace our imperfections
Yeah.
and focus on progress over perfection,
I love that.
we open ourselves up to more joy and fulfillment.
Totally.
Okay, so we talked about understanding and befriending that mad woman
Right.
and practicing self-compassion.
Right.
What else does it mean to grow mighty?
Yeah. How do we cultivate that inner strength?
The Goskis emphasize recognizing our own power and agency.
Okay.
It's about making choices that align with our values and taking action even when it feels scary.
I can see that.
Stepping outside of our comfort zones,
Right.
proving to ourselves we're capable of more.
Totally.
And it can be as simple as setting a boundary,
Okay.
speaking up for yourself, or pursuing a passion.
That sounds nice.
It's about reclaiming our power
I like that.
and making choices that move us closer to the lives we want to live.
Yes.
Growing mighty also involves surrounding ourselves
Okay.
with supportive people who encourage us to be our best selves.
That's so important.
It's about building a community of people we can rely on
For sure.
for encouragement and guidance.
Right.
And a little reality check.
We all need that sometimes.
They talk about creating a bubble of love.
Oh, a bubble of love. I like that.
It could include friends, family
Listen.
mentors, therapists,
Okay.
anyone who makes you feel safe and supported.
It's a good reminder that we don't have to do this alone.
We're all stronger together.
For sure.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive into burnout. I hope this has been helpful and given you some tools to manage your stress.
It has been so helpful.
find meaning and cultivate resilience in your own life.
I've learned so much.
You don't have to implement everything all at once.
Okay, good.
Even small changes can make a big difference.
That makes me feel better.
Start with one thing that resonated with you and build from there.
So maybe try one of the stress cycle completion techniques.
Yes.
Or set aside some time for rest. Or practice some self-compassion.
Those are all great places to start.
Or maybe identify your something larger.
Right.
Or take a step towards unlearning helplessness.
Whatever it is, trust yourself.
Okay.
Be patient, and remember, you have the power to create a life that feels more balanced, meaningful, and fulfilling.
I love that.
It's been such a pleasure diving into this book with you.
Likewise. It's been so fun.
We hope you enjoyed this journey.
I did.
And that you'll join us again next time for another deep dive into a new topic.
I'll be.
Until then, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep on growing mighty.